We've already formed a quorum and it's also time for us to start. Thank you for attending this morning's PWSC meeting. We have 21 papers today, 20 for upgrading 21 projects to Cat 1, and the remaining is to enhance the approved estimates for one of the Cat A project. Here, I'd like to remind members that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest related to any of the item here, in accordance of Rule 83A, you have to disclose the nature of that interest. I'd also like to draw your attention to ROP 84 in relation to voting requirements when there's a direct pecuniary interest. Let's continue with our discussion on paper PWSC 2014-15-11, and we continue to vote on whether or not to handle motions submitted without notice. And after the last meeting, I scrutinized the motions. Some are duplicating other motions, others are vague. And if I'm of the opinion that certain figures should be collated, those motions have already been returned to the members concerned. Before we resume voting on whether or not to handle these motions without prior notice, I'd like to first handle Dr. Fernando Cheung's motion to adjust the sequence of the agenda items. He sent in a letter dated the 1st of July, a copy of which had been distributed to members. The letter is very clear. Dr. Fernando Cheung, would you please briefly tell us your request? Mr. Chairman, my letter is to request advancing the order of the 4 papers on education. That is before the discussion on the artificial islands on the central waters, which is very controversial given the discussion that we had. And today we may not be able to resolve the paper. We have about 64 motions to handle. After combination, there would be about 11. I understand that other colleagues also had moved other motions. So if today we continue to discuss the artificial islands, I'm afraid that this meeting may not be able to scrutinize the other papers in relation to people's livelihood, in particular those related to educational facilities. I won't dwell on the details. Special schools, secondary schools, and so forth. So, Mr. Chairman, if colleagues so agree, we should approve those 4 projects first before coming back to the artificial islands. Dr. Fernando Cheung, thank you for your comment. Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Chairman, I agree with Dr. Fernando Cheung. The papers that he mentioned in his paper, I don't have strong views. If we are to discuss those papers now, I'm very willing to facilitate that move such that we would start the works as early as possible and implement them as early as possible. Mr. Tam Yu Chung, I suggest we scrutinize all agenda items as soon as possible and endorse them. The LegCo is very near to the summer recess, so we would like to proceed expeditiously to the other items and proceed to voting. Mr. Wong Kok Heng. Mr. Chairman, this backlog is actually the result of those colleagues who would like to filibustering. They would like to delay our discussions. The 4 items proposed by Dr. Fernando Cheung are important, but in accordance with the sequence on the agenda, all the items are important. If Dr. Fernando Cheung, Mr. Albert Chan, and Mr. Gary Fan are not invoking procedure, the PWSC procedure, to hinder the progress of this meeting, then we would not come to this date. So all those motions without prior notice should be withdrawn. Education is important, housing is important, land site identification is also important. Last time we had filibustering, and this time for the artificial islands, you also filibuster. If the government identifies land site, you scold the government. If the government does not identify land sites, you scold the government. So what's important? What's important to you is important. What's not important to you is not important. It's as simple as that. Mr. Gary Fan, Mr. Chairman, I support Dr. Fernando Cheung's paper to advance certain agenda items. I think Mr. Wong Kok Heng is lopsided, and he has neglected certain aspects, different items with different scale, and opposition within the public do vary a great deal. Dr. Fernando Cheung wants to advance the scrutiny of 4 projects, including 2 schools, special school, and so forth. Now, these are also controversial. Even without the reclamation issue, we discussed 6 methods, and there are concrete data to support our approach. These data are quantitative, scientific, and objective survey results for identification of land sites and boosting the land reserve. So for reclamation as a strategy, there's a strong opposition. If the LegCo, in scrutinizing these works projects, really attach importance to procedural justice, and the government is rational, reasonable, and logical, and follows all the necessary steps and procedures, then we have to respect stages 1 and stages 1 and 2 in accordance with the questionnaire survey results done by the government. Therefore, many councillors and myself put forward questions, queries, and even motions without prior notice. These are on top of the public objections. Mr. Wong said that we are filibustering irrespective of what's happening. That's not true. So, in scrutinizing the projects, I agree that we should change the order of discussion, as suggested by Dr. Fernando Cheung. Just a brief comment, isn't it? Mr. Wu Chi-wai? Then I can also inform you my proposed approach. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps I did not hear what colleagues said just now. For today's society, there are many different views in society. There are controversial issues, there are doubts about the consultative process, etc., etc. Dr. Fernando Cheung is suggesting that for those with less controversy, they should be discussed as early as possible. For those items related to people's livelihood, we all want to implement the projects as soon as possible, schools, hospitals, and so forth. For this, strategic studies for artificial islands in the central waters, honestly speaking, even if this is done a bit later, is it really related to life and limb? No. So we should handle those with no controversy first. For those with controversy, we can postpone them, such that the LegCo can really do something. We're not bundling things together to force you to make difficult decisions. Then we'll be able to uphold the principles for scrutinizing items and will be pragmatic in serving society. Otherwise, some colleagues just want to have sufficient votes. Today, the proposals pass through the PWSC, and then tomorrow at the FC meeting, colleagues can still put forth a great deal of queries. When it comes to these studies on reclamation, you see it has very broad implications. So even those colleagues who are not opposing you, they may also consider that you're asking for a scale of reclamation that exceeds what's really necessary. So if you do not make amendments, then eventually, because of different decisions and opinion, we have to relay the message that we oppose the studies on central waters reclamation. So Dr. Fernando Cheung's opinion is very good. In this PWSC, we would like to reach consensus on certain items, and we should implement them as early as possible. If we want to quarrel, let's continue to quarrel. That's what a legislature is. Otherwise, on each and every item, whenever there is controversy, when we have to pass political judgment, very often not just we will be affected, but the government will also be affected, because objectively the government has to discuss with you how to do our work. So how should we handle this controversy? You say we're purely filibustering and only you are serving the people. I'm not trying to teach you how to act smartly. I just want us to act with more benefits to the public. The PWSC's role is to scrutinize the construction works under the reserve fund. And we have to make recommendations to the Finance Committee. Therefore, all along, the agenda of the PWSC has been submitted by the designated officials of the government. And all along, the PWSC chairman has respected the administration in relation to the agenda items and their sequence. When we discussed the landfill and the incinerator, there were also views on the sequence of the agenda items. And I have spelled out the principles which I abide by. As for Dr. Fernando Cheung's proposal, my attitude is the same. I don't want to change my approach. Of course, we respect the government's view on the agenda items to be discussed and their sequence. So my attitude is clear. I do not intend to change the approach that I have always adopted. So perhaps I should defer to Mr. Yeung Tak-kang, Deputy Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, to see what his attitude is.
You can see there's a lot on the agenda of the PWSC. Actually, some of the items have been on the agenda since May. And I can also notice that the chairman has in the previous meetings reminded members that the subcommittee has a lot of items long ahead. And we had added a number of meetings already to try to settle the items. And so all the items on the agenda today are urgent in their own way. So I do hope that we can try to scrutinize various proposals as soon as possible. Fernando Jung and other members have expressed their own views. If there is a motion approved by the subcommittee, would that affect the decision or change the chairman's decision? You mean on the arrangement of the agenda, as I said very clearly just then? I said just then what my principles are, and Mr. Yuen said he wouldn't change the order of the items, and so neither would I change it. So therefore, we have had almost 8 hours of meeting on the agenda, and based on 32A of the procedures, we've decided not to deal with the request, the latest request. And last time we've asked members who, according to Rules 32A, have moved motions. We've asked them to submit all the motions that they have prepared, and they've given them to us by now. Last time I stated very clearly that we should not accept any more motions moved in accordance with Rule 32A. So having considered the remaining options, I would, after considering all the options, I would ask members to vote on the motions. Of all the motions received, some of them are overlapping or concerned with the same topic. Therefore, we need to consolidate the various motions. And I've also notified the relevant members. My letters of notification have also been circulated to members for your reference. Fernando Jung suggested they've consolidated some of the motions already. Without taking into account the new or consolidated motions, there are altogether 115 motions directly related to our agenda, and I'll consider members whether to deal with these motions individually. Later on, I will take time to scrutinize the motions or consolidated motions submitted. And I'll similarly put them to members to decide on whether to vote on them. Have you received the motions from me that you returned to me and then I worked on again? Yes. Yes, the motions from Fernando Jung and Gary Jung, I've received them. Yes. So now let's deal with 64, motion 64. We need to deal with moved by Albert Chen. 0064. Those in favor of approving this motion, dealing with this motion, please raise your hands. Please read out your motion, Albert Chen. I move that since the funding proposal, including infrastructural development and including a water supply system, and since we urge the administration to study the feasibility of building a water desalination plant as part of the infrastructural studies, so that the community of the future island can get treated water, clean water in the future, and also save the cost of building water pipes to the proposed artificial island in the central waters. Okay, let's vote now. Before I announce the results, members, please check your votes. Okay, time's up for voting. Please show the results. Members 13 present, 4 against 8, abstention nil. So the motion was defeated. Next one is 0066, also moved by Albert Chen. We need to vote whether to deal with this motion. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Yes, I move that since the administration has not told us the timetable for the feasibility study for the Central Island strategic study, so a lot of the people are worried that the administration has not carried out an impact on the fishery industry. So we urge that the administration should carry out a feasibility study on the fishery industry first before carrying out with the strategic environmental impact assessment to ensure that the feasibility and infrastructure study can be carried out with adequate information on the impact on the environment. Okay, time for voting. Before I announce the results, please check your votes. Okay, time's up. Results. 40 members, for 5, against 8, abstention 0. So the motion was rejected. 67 next. Let's vote whether we should deal with this motion. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. Albert Chan, please read out your motion. In accordance with Rules 32A, I move that since the administration has not given us a timetable for the strategic study for the artificial island, members of the public are worried that the feasibility study will be carried out without adequate site investigation study and also environmental impact study. We urge the administration, when carrying out the strategic study, it should first finish the strategic environmental impact assessment and come up with preliminary planning proposal first before carrying out site investigation, and also carry out the feasibility and infrastructure study after the site investigation has been finished to ensure that the future feasibility and infrastructure study can be carried out with adequate information on the impact on the environment and site investigation. So that's time to vote. Let's vote now. Time's up. 60 members present, those for, 6 against, 9 abstention 0. So I declare that this motion is rejected. 68, motion 68, moved by Albert Chan. Should we deal with this motion? Okay. I move that since over the past few years, when the administration carried out large-scale reclamation, it has not accurately assessed the situation of lands submerging of land and causing a lot of large-scale reclamation projects after they're finished, resulting in the submerging of land faster than expected. So we urge that the administration, when carrying out the feasibility study and infrastructure study, should stay in the contract that the consultants must ensure that they can accurately estimate the extent of land subsidy or subsidence. Otherwise, they would need to pay compensation to the government or provide remedial measures. Okay, let's vote now. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Time's up. Let's show the results. 60 members present, for, 5 against, abstention 0. So the motion was rejected. Next one, Albert Chan. 69, motion 69. Should we agree to deal with this motion? Okay, Albert Chan, please. I move that since over the past few years, when carrying out large-scale reclamation, the administration never seriously studied the impact on the fishery industry and resulting in the reclamation projects causing a far higher image or damage to the industry than expected. And since the proposed artificial island plan will have a large impact on the fishery industry, but the administration only used $14 million to hire consultancy to carry out the impact on the fishery industry. We urge the administration to allocate more resources to carry out a study on the impact on the fishery industry that lasts not less than 3 years to ensure adequate assessment. So That is to ensure that there's adequate assessment on the impact on the fishery industry. Okay, let's vote. Before I announce the results, please check your votes. Time's up. Let's show the results. 15 members present, for, 10 against, abstention 0. So this motion was rejected. Okay, now it's motion 17, moved by Albert Chan. Those who agree to deal with this motion, please raise your hands. Okay. Chairman, I move that since most of the dioxide released in Hong Kong are coming from vehicles, and when the administration is building the future East Liantang metropolis, there will be a large amount of vehicles going to the site. We urge that when the administration carries out the strategic environmental impact assessment, it should study the impact of the large volume of vehicles going to the area on the community, the air quality on the nearby community. So we should carry out this study to test the amount of dioxide to be released so that we can have an accurate assessment of the impact on the environment in the future on the artificial island. Okay, time to vote. Members, please check your votes. Time's up. Let's show the results. 50 members present, for, 10 against, abstention 0. So the motion was rejected. Next one is moved by Fernando Cheung. Motion 88. We need to vote whether we agree to deal with this motion. Those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. Please read out your motion, Fernando Cheung. In accordance with Rule 32A of the committee, I move that since Project 768CL covers the feasibility and infrastructure study, including transportation connection, I urge that the administration should also study whether we should study the linkage to the proposed Macau-Hong Kong-Zhuhai Bridge. Okay, time to vote. Before I announce the results, please check your votes. Okay, please show the results. 60 members present, for, 11 against, abstention 0. So the motion has been rejected. Fernando Cheung's 089, motion 89.
Do we agree to handle that motion? Those in favor? Dr. Fernando Cheung, the division bell will ring for 1 minute. Please read out your motion. The motion says, in accordance with Procedure 32A, I suggest that the study, including the initial area and land use, the PWSC requests that land for residential use should be enhanced as far as possible to satisfy the housing needs of the people of Hong Kong. Voting begins. Before I declare the results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 16 present, for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is to handle Mr. Gary Fan's motion 0091. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion says, in accordance with Procedure 32A, I move that the study fee will be $220 million, the biggest so far. So a strategic study should be studied first, for example, on the reclamation fee for Chuklapkok Airport, and excluding all other factors to make sure that this is value for money before starting the strategic studies on the artificial islands. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negative. The next question is whether or not to handle motion 92 moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor, please raise their hand. Mr. Gary Fan claims a division. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A, I move that as PWSC 2014-15-11 sets out a study area that covers the land in Island West, the PWSC urges the government to undertake that before starting Project 768CL, archaeological investigation must be conducted first for Island West before starting 768CL. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negative. The next question is whether or not to handle motion 93 moved by Mr. Gary Fan. The question is whether or not to handle the motion. Those in favor, I claim a division. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as Project 768CL will generate construction waste, the PWSC urges the government to, before starting Project 768CL, first formulate specific measures to ensure that all those construction waste generated by 768CL could be reused. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negative. The next question is whether or not to handle motion 94 moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor, please raise their hand. I claim a division. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. My motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as Project 768CL will generate construction waste, the PWSC urges the government to, before starting Project 768CL, first formulate specific measures to ensure that all construction waste generated by 768CL could be recycled.
現在開始表決。
Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 95, moved by Mr. Gary Fan. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. My motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, as the land supply strategy for enhancement for reclamation beyond Victoria Harbour and development of caverns in Stage 2 consultation, a great deal of view support using the artificial islands in central waters for residential development. PWSC urges the administration to, before starting SEM 68CL, first undertake that a specific number of public rental housing units or public housing units be provided in the artificial islands in the central waters. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 96, moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Mr. Gary Fan claims the division. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. My motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that the PWSC urges the Development Bureau to ensure that the site investigation works of Project 768CL will not adversely affect marine traffic and marine safety. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 97 of Mr. Gary Fan. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. Mr. Chairman, the motion says that I move that as the existing study by the government is for the strategic studies of the artificial islands of central waters, and the study involve a huge expenditure and about 2,000 hectares of land, and the full amount and the amount of money to be spent would be very huge. So the PWSC urges the government to first estimate the financial cost and the quantity of those needed for reclamation before starting the strategic studies for the artificial islands on central waters. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 104 of Dr. Fernando Cheung. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. My motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the scope of Project 768CL covers the consultation with stakeholders. The PWSC requests the administration and the related authorities to proceed with ample consultation and respect the views of related stakeholders. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 108 of Dr. Fernando Cheung. Those in favor? A division is claimed. The bell will ring for 1 minute. My motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, paragraph 10 of paper PWSC 2014-1511 points out that the strategic studies for artificial islands in the central waters will duly consider the concerns of the public in Stage 2 public engagement. And in Stage 2 public engagement, views collected on these artificial islands will also be considered, including one of the very major concern about residential development on the land sites provided. The PWSC urges administration to provide data about whether or not there will be subsidence. Voting begins. Please check your votes before I declare the results. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 5 for, 11 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 113 of Dr. Fernando Cheung. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. In accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that, as pointed out in paragraph 10 of the discussion paper PWSC 2014-1511, views and concerns expressed in Stage 2 public engagement, as well as views collected on during Stage 2 public engagement, with one of the major concerns being residential development on the land provided, in particular public rental housing. The PWSC urges the administration to study how many residents of subdivided units would be provided with housing on such land in order to ease the housing problem. Voting now begins. Before I declare the results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 16 present, 5 for, 10 against, no abstention. The question is negatived.
118. Those who agree with the motion, please raise your hands. But Chen, I moved that since over the past few years, quite a number of new towns cannot provide enough employment opportunities for residents. And if with the completion of the artificial island, a lot of people may move there. So I urge that the administration so in the future, we're not sure if people in an artificial island may need to go to elsewhere for work. And that could cause a heavy transportation burden. So we urge that the administration should ensure that there will be enough high-tech technologies, agriculture, and environmental industries land reserved for all these industries in the future, so as to ensure that there'll be enough and diversified employment opportunities for people living on the future artificial islands, so they don't have to go elsewhere for work. So it's now time to vote. Please check your votes. Okay, please show the results. 60 members present, 5 for, 10 against, abstention 0, so the motion is negatived. 119. Motion number 9, moved by Albert Chan. Okay, Albert Chan? I move that since the administration may connect the artificial island with Liantang, Hong Kong, and Kowloon via a large bridge. And the proposed bridge may also be the major routeway for future residents on the island to go to other places. Urge the administration should, when carrying out its feasibility study, investigate the potential impact on the transportation when a typhoon attacks Hong Kong. And if the wind strength reaches 120 kilometers per hour, the residents on the future island may have the transportation link disconnected. The administration should stop the feasibility study of the artificial island to ensure public money would not be wasted. So now it's time to vote. Okay, time's up. Let's show the results. 18 members present, 5 for, 12 against, abstention 0, so the motion is negatived. Motion 120, moved by Albert Chan. Okay. Mr. Chan, since the administration says that it will build a East Liantang metropolis on the artificial island, quite a number of residents are worried that the building of skyscrapers on the island would destroy the ridge line of Liantang. So we urge that the administration should ensure that the future buildings on the island would not exceed 200 meters in height, to ensure that the ridge line of Liantang Island would not be destroyed by the artificial island and the construction of the metropolis. So time to vote. Before I announce results, please check your votes. Okay, voting is closed. Let's show the results. 18 members present, 4 for, 13 against, abstention 0, so the motion is negatived. Motion 121, moved by Albert Chan next. Please read out your motion. I move that since the administration has pointed out that the site investigation project would not remove any trees, yet according to past experiences, quite a number of site investigation projects has caused serious damage to natural plants. So we urge the administration when approving site investigation projects, it should state in the contracts that should there be any destruction to plants during the future investigation, the firm concerned must pay compensation to the government, so as to ensure that the future site investigation engineering companies would not carry out any works that destroy plants. Okay, it's now time to vote. Please check your votes. Please show the results. 19 members present, 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0. So the motion is negatived. Okay, motion 122 next by Albert Chan. Mr. Chan, I move that since over the past few years, quite a number of feasibility and infrastructure studies have been delayed and causing a project to be completed behind schedule. And since the artificial island project is a large-scale one, and if there were to be delay, there will be massive losses incurred. Therefore, we urge administration when selecting the consultants to carry out the feasibility and infrastructure study, it should choose a consultant that has not caused any major delay in its past projects to ensure that or to avoid the construction of the artificial island and the infrastructure study results in major delay in the future.
Now
time to vote. Please check your votes. Time's up. Let's see the results. 90 members present, 5 for, 13 against, 0 abstention, so motion is rejected. Okay, next is motion 123. Please read out the motion. I move that since the artificial island in the central waters may be the most complicated and biggest reclamation project, quite a number of people are worried that the construction may incur financial burden on the Hong Kong government. So I urge that the administration, when carrying out the feasibility and infrastructure study, it must stipulate a clear target for the consultants carrying out the feasibility study. That is, the construction price should not exceed $30 billion. If the consultants think that $30 billion is not enough to cover the future construction costs, then the administration must stop the strategic study to ensure that the administration would not blindly carrying out the reclamation project without cost effectiveness. It's time to vote. Okay, voting is closed. Please show the results. 20 members present, 5 for, 14 against, abstention 0, so the motion is negatived. Next one is motion 124, moved by Albert Chan. Mr. Chan, please read out your motion. Yeah, I move that since the artificial island project may be the biggest and most complicated reclamation project in Hong Kong, quite a number of people worry that it may take many years for the project to be finished, and meaning that the proposed island may not be able to ease the housing shortage in time. So I urge that during the feasibility and infrastructure study, we need to set very clear targets for the commissioned consultants. That is, the construction period of the reclamation should not last more than 36 months. If the consultants feel that 36 months is not enough, then the administration must stop the strategic study and find other more effective ways to ease the housing shortage. Okay, time to vote. Before I announce the results, please check your votes. Please show the results. 20 members present, 5 for, 14 against, abstention 0, so the motion is rejected. Okay, next is motion 125, moved by Albert Chan. Okay, Mr. Chan. I move that since the administration has not stated a clear timetable for the strategic study for the artificial island, quite a number of people are worried that the government may have come up with a preliminary plan without adequate consultation. So we urge that the administration must first consult the stakeholders before carrying out the site investigation, and only carrying out the feasibility and infrastructure study after site investigation has been done. And after the feasibility study has been done, should it come up with preliminary planning proposal to ensure that the strategic study for the artificial island is backed by public support. Okay, it's now time to vote. Please check your votes. Time's up. Please show the results. 19 members present for 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0, so the motion is rejected. Next one, motion 126, moved by Albert Chan. Okay, Mr. Chan. I move that since the artificial island on central waters may involve large-scale reclamation and meaning a large commercial opportunity for contractors, I urge that when we invite tenders for the feasibility and infrastructure study, we must say in the tender that the administration would not select any contractor with close relationship with the consultants responsible for the feasibility study. This is to ensure that the consultants doing the feasibility study would not, because of close links with contractors, exaggerate results of the feasibility study, causing losses to the government. Okay, it's now time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Time's up. Let's see the results. 19 members present for, 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0. The motion is rejected. Next one is motion 127, moved by Albert Chan. Mr. Chan asks for a claim. A division? Okay, Mr. Chan, I move that since Hong Kong now lacks berths for small boats, limiting the growth of leisure activities, I urge the administration, when coming up with a preliminary planning proposal for the artificial island, it must study the possibility of creating berthing spaces for small boats on the future island, so as to develop water leisure activities on the artificial island in the future. Okay, it's now time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Time's up. Let's see the results. 20 members present, 5 for, 14 against, abstention 0. So the motion is negatived. Next is motion moved by Gary Fan, motion 128. Mr. Fan, please read the motion. In accordance with Rule 32A of the committee, move that since project PWSC 2014, the paper PWSC 14-15-11 cannot clearly express the importance of the feasibility study, so to avoid a loss of public money, I urge that the Development Bureau must first study how the artificial island in central waters can meet the future population and commercial development needs before making a proposal or study to the LegCo. And then, only after then, should it ask for funding approval for project 768CL.
Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Mr. Wu Chiwai? Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 5 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is whether or not the PWSC agrees to handle motion 129 of Mr. Gary Fan. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the study area in attachment 1 of paper PWSC 2014-15-11 covers a number of outlying islands areas which had not undergone public consultation on reclamation, the PWSC urges the administration to first undertake that it would not construct artificial islands in the neighboring waters of Changchao and on Changchao before starting Project 768CL. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 5 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 131 from Mr. Gary Fan. Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen. In accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the study area mapped out in attachment of paper PWSC 2014-15-11 covers a number of outlying island area that had not undergone public consultation for reclamation, the PWSC urges the administration to first undertake that it will not construct artificial islands on Lama Island and or its neighboring waters before starting 768CL. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 5 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 133, moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor? Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen. There's no formal English version. It says that in accordance with Procedure 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the development of artificial islands in the central waters will affect Hong Kong's fisheries development. Therefore, the PWSC urges the Development Bureau to ensure that while proceeding with the strategic studies for 768CL, the affected Hong Kong fishermen should be regularly consulted and a consensus should be reached with the fishermen. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Mr. Gary Fan? Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 5 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 135 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Please read out the motion. The motion says that in accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that in stage 2 in public engagement for enhancing the land supply strategy for reclamation beyond Victoria Harbour and the development of caverns, the administration has delineated a study area with an area smaller than the study area mapped out in attachment 1 of paper 11, such that the consultation results could not be used as a standard. Therefore, the PWSC urges the administration to first reconsult the public on 768CL before formally starting 768CL. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 19 present, 5 for, 13 against, no abstention. I declare the question negative. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 136 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor? Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Mr. Fan will read out the motion, which is shown on the screen. The motion says that in accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that among the views collected earlier on artificial islands in the central waters, the development of public rental housing units were most supported. Therefore, the PWSC urges the Development Bureau to ensure that when conducting the strategic studies on 768CL, the development of PRH would be set as a higher priority, and a detailed assessment on the livelihood cost of the PRH tenant in that area be carried out. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 5 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. Then the next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 137 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. In accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that, as in the previous consultation, reclamation beyond Victoria Harbour for the acquisition of land received the highest number of oppositions. Therefore, the PWSC urges the Development Bureau to ensure that while conducting the strategic studies on 768CL, reclamation development would be given a secondary priority amongst all the development options. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. Mr. Abachan, you haven't made your choice. Display voting results. 19 present, 5 for, 13 against, no abstention. The question is negative. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 138 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor? Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Please read out the motion. The motion is shown on the screen. There's no English version. In accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that the PWSC urges the Development Bureau to ensure that the construction waste generated by the site investigation works under 768CL would be appropriately handled and would not be directly dumped into the sea. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 18 present, 5 for, 12 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 139 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Those in favor, Mr. Fan claims a division. Please ring the bell. Please read out the motion, which is shown on the screen with no English version formally. In accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that the PWSC urges that the Development Bureau, when commencing Project 768CL, give priority to the employment of local workers and certain indicators be formulated for the importation of labor to protect the job opportunities of local workers. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 19 present, 5 for, 13 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 140 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Please read out the motion. The motion says that in accordance with paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the construction of artificial islands in the central waters and the development of East Lantau metropolis will affect Lantau residents, the PWSC urges the Development Bureau, while conducting the study on 768CL, formulate detailed consultation plans to consult the Lantau residents and to submit the consultation plans to the LegCo for scrutiny. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 19 present, 5 for, 13 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 141 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. It says, under paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that the PWSC urges the Development Bureau, when proceeding with site investigation works under 768CL, should ensure that marine ecology would not be affected, and it should also regularly meet with conservation groups and provide them with the latest developments. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Mr. Wu Chiwai. All right, voting is now closed. 19 present, 5 for, 13 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 142 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. Mr. Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. The motion says that according to paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that the PWSC urges the Development Bureau to, when tendering for consultancy services for Project 768CL should report progress to the LegCo and obtain approval from the LegCo before signing contracts with the consultancy.
It's now time to vote. Before I announce results, please check your votes. Time's up. Please show the results. 70 members present, 5 for, 11 against, abstention 0, so the motion is rejected. Next one is motion 143, moved by Gary Fan. Okay, please. I move that since the natural birth rate in Hong Kong, population increase rate in Hong Kong is very low. Up to 2014, there will just be a population of $7.98 million people. So now we urge the administration, the government, to carry out a detailed assessment of future population growth first before carrying out the feasibility study or strategic study for these artificial islands, so that we can have a more precise projection for the future population before coming up with detailed planning. Time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Okay, let's see the results. 18 members present, 5 for, 12 against, abstention 0. The motion is rejected. Next one is motion 144, moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it, please raise your hands. Okay, 1 minute, Mr. Fan. I move that since the central waters near Liantang Island is an important maritime passageway. In the strategic study for the Divisional Island involves important maritime passageways. We urge the administration to carry out a detailed study on the logistics and maritime passageway in the area, and to have careful consultations with the people in the Liantang Island and the industry before carrying out the strategic study for the proposed artificial island. It's now time to vote. Before I announce the results, members, please check your votes. White? Okay, voting is closed. Let's see the results. 19 members present, 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0. So the motion is rejected. Next one, motion 146, moved by Gary Fan. Okay, those who agree to deal with this? Okay. Mr. Fan? In accordance with Rule 32A of the Subcommittee, I move that since the government has kept proposing reclamation projects in recent years, the ocean's size outside of Hong Kong has kept decreasing. We urge the administration, when coming up with statutory laws, it should ban large-scale reclamation in the next 20 years to protect maritime ecology and also the size of the ocean. And I think that law should be put in place first before we start the study and site investigation for the artificial island. It's now time to vote. Before I announce the results, please check your votes. Okay, voting is closed. Michael Tan, you haven't made a choice yet. Okay, you're going to. Okay, let's see the results. 19 members present, 5 for, 12 against, abstention 0. Okay, motion is rejected. Next one. Motion 147 moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it, please raise your hand. Mr. Fan, please read out the motion. In accordance with Rule 32A of the committee, I move that since the construction begin of the Hong Kong-Macau High Bridge, the water quality in Hong Kong waters has deteriorated, causing very serious damage to the maritime ecology. Therefore, we urge that the administration should carry out a study on the impact on water quality of the Hong Kong-Macau High Bridge and to evaluate the current quality, how has impacted Hong Kong water quality first before carrying out the study and site investigation for the artificial island in central waters. So it's now time to vote. Before I announce the results, members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 19 members present, 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0. The motion is rejected. Okay, motion 148 moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it, please raise your hands. Okay. Mr. Fan? In accordance with Rule 32A of the subcommittee, I move that we should urge the administration to promise that the 766CR project will not carry out any water dredging works before proceeding with 768CL project. So it's now time to vote. Before I announce results, please check your votes. Voting is closed. 19 members present, 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0. The motion is rejected. Okay, motion 149 moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it. Okay, Mr. Fan. Based on Rule 32A of the subcommittee, I move that since 766CR project plan include the development of the East Liantang metropolis, we urge the administration to fully implement the heritage protection strategies mentioned in the conceptual plan 2007 for Liantang development before proceeding with 768CL project. Have some members turn on their mobile phones? Heard some feedback. Okay, time to vote. Members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 18 members present, 5 for, 12 against, abstention 0. The motion is rejected. Motion 150 moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it, please raise your hands. Mr. Fan, please. In accordance with Rule 32A of the subcommittee, I move that the subcommittee urges the administration to carry out a public hearing on the artificial island in central waters before proceeding with Project 768CL.
Time
to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 18 members present, 5 for, 12 against, abstention 0. So the motion is rejected. Next one, motion 153, moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it, please raise your hands. Mr. Fan, please read it out. In accordance with Rule 32A of the subcommittee, I move that since the administration has carried out various large-scale infrastructure projects, and yet the Civil Engineering and Development Department has not added manpower, we urge that the administration should first review the workload of the staff at the Civil Engineering and Development Department and come up with solutions first before carrying out the study and site investigation for the artificial island in central waters. Are you referring to Civil Engineering and Development Department? Right. Time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. 18 members present, 5 for, 11 against, abstention 0. So the motion is rejected. Next one, motion 156, moved by Gary Fan. Those who agree to deal with it? Okay, Mr. Fan. In accordance with Rule 32A of the subcommittee, I move that since the artificial islands reclamation project will affect residents on the nearby islands and including transportation issues, so we urge that the government should first carry out consultation with people on the nearby islands first on the transportation issue and get a consent first before carrying out the study and site investigation for the island.
Voting begins. Before I declare the results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 18 present, 5 for, 12 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 157 as moved by Mr. Gary Fan. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. My motion says that under paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the study area of the central islands in the central waters involve the residents of different islands, and in recent times, some of the areas are reaching their capacity in terms of the number of visitors, for example, Changchao and Lama. Therefore, the PWSC urges the administration to first review the transport infrastructure of various districts to see whether or not they are sufficient before starting the investigation works and studies for the Central Islands, artificial islands in the central waters. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Mr. James Tan, you haven't made your choice yet. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 15 present, 4 for, 9 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 158 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor? A division is claimed. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Please read out the motion, which is shown on the screen with no formal English version. The motion says that under paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the artificial islands in the central waters and East Liantang metropolis, if they are to be implemented, a mass transport system to carry residents in and out of those islands will have to be provided. Therefore, the PWSC urges the administration to first study whether or not it is feasible to provide a railway linking these artificial waters. If that is impossible, then the strategic studies should be immediately suspended to ensure that public money will be used properly. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 17 present, 4 for, 12 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 159 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor? Mr. Chan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. It says that under paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the artificial islands in the central waters may affect the habitats of the finless porpoises, the PWSC urges the administration to first study the feasibility of setting up marine parks in Hong Kong waters to ease the impact on the livelihood of finless porpoises in the artificial islands in the central waters. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 19 present, 4 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 160 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor? Mr. Chan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. It says that under paragraph 32A of the PWSC procedure, I move that as the ocean-going vessels are becoming bigger and bigger and many medium-sized container vessels are up to 100,000 tons or above. Therefore, in constructing these artificial islands, which may cause the navigation channel to narrow, thus leading to difficulty in going in and out of the Kowloon container port, the administration should, when carrying out these studies, also carry out studies on marine traffic and safety. and also the impact of such works on Kowloon container port in relation to the navigation channel being narrowed. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 19 present, 4 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 161 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Chan claims the division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. It says that I move that as many government departments and the headquarters take up a lot of precious land sites in the urban areas, the PWSC requests the administration that in the preliminary planning studies for these artificial islands, the government should consider relocating the government headquarters to these artificial islands in the central waters and the visibility, and through such relocation boost the land supply in Central and Western District to ease the shortage of officers in Central and Western District. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 4 for, 15 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 162 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor? Mr. Chan claims the division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. It says that I move that the PWSC requests the administration to give priority to the employment of local workers in worksite investigation works as well as work consultancy to ensure that public money could be used to boost the job opportunities for the local engineering sector and construction sector. Voting now begins. Before I declare the results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 4 for, 15 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 163 of Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor? Mr. Chan claims the division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. As in the past years, there are frequent collisions in the West Lama Channel amongst high-speed vessels and cargo vessels. Therefore, after the completion of these artificial islands, which may further narrow the West Lama Channel, leading to more marine traffic incidents, the administration must conduct marine traffic safety studies for port operation, and methods should be identified to ensure that after the completion of these artificial islands, the number of marine traffic accidents would not increase tremendously in West Lama Channel. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 4 for, 15 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 164 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor, Mr. Chan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. As in the past years, in East Lama Channel and West Lama Channel, a great deal of waters would wash away the pollutants in Victoria Harbour. Many people were worried that after the completion of these artificial islands, such water currents would be reduced in strength, thus leading to accumulation of pollutants in the Victoria Harbour, thus leading to deterioration of water quality. Therefore, the PWSC requests the administration to, while proceeding with strategic studies and assessment, ensure the consultancy would employ experts with rich knowledge to make such assessments on deterioration of water quality. Voting now begins. Mr. James Stowe? Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 21 present, 5 for, 15 against. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 165 of Mr. Albert Chan. Those in favor, Mr. Chan claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. Mr. Chairman, in past years, the connecting traffic and transport systems of these artificial islands involve reclamation, thus leading to irreparable losses to such waters. Therefore, the administration should study the feasibility of linking these artificial islands with submarine tunnels so as to avoid further reclamation as a result of the construction of connecting transport networks. Voting now begins. Before I declare the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. Display voting results. 20 present, 5 for, 14 against, no abstention. The question is negatived. The next question is that the PWSC agrees to handle motion 166 as moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. The division bell will ring for 1 minute. The motion is shown on the screen with no formal English version. It says that the administration should first complete preliminary planning proposals and then proceed with strategic EIA and then feasibility study on the works as well as infrastructure studies to ensure that in accordance with such preliminary planning proposals, EIA results as well as worksite investigation results, proceed with studies on the feasibility of such works as well as the infrastructure feasibility.
Let's see the results. 20 members present, 5 for, 14 against, abstention 0. Motion is negatived. Motion 167 moved by Albert Chan. Please read out the motion. Thank you, Chairman. Since the administration has said that they want to turn the artificial island into another corporate district outside of Central District in Kowloon East, a number of people are worried that there will be high-density commercial and residential units built on the island, causing serious damage to the view on the island. We urge that when the administration come up with preliminary planning proposal, it must set a limit of plot ratio of below 3 times to ensure that the view on the island, outlying islands, will not be affected by high-density commercial and residential buildings. Now time to vote. Before I announce the results, members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Please show the results. 19 members present, 5 for, 13 against, abstention 0. Motion is rejected. Next one. Motion 168, moved by Albert Chan. Those who agree to deal with it. Mr. Chan claims the division. Please read out the motion. I move that because of a greenhouse effect, the deteriorating of greenhouse effect, and the strength of typhoon is going to intensify in the years ahead, and also the typhoon Haiyan brought up to waves of 14.8 meter high in the Philippines earlier. Therefore, Hong Kong is also at risk of typhoon waves incurring more than 10 meters of waves. So we urge the administration, when carrying out feasibility and infrastructural study for the artificial island, it should assess the risk to be caused to the island when a typhoon of 10 meters high hits Hong Kong. And if we found that the island cannot withstand 10 meters high of wave attacks, then the administration should stop the feasibility strategic study for the artificial island to ensure that the public money would not go to waste. So now it's time to vote. Voting is closed. Let's see the results.
20位贊成。
20 members present, 5 for, 14 against, abstention 0. Motion is rejected. Next one is 169, motion 169, moved by Albert Chan. Mr. Chan, I move that since the administration will carry out infrastructural study for the artificial island and also the transportation links to the island, we urge that the administration, when carrying out those studies, should select option for transportation links that do not cost more than $10 billion. If it cannot find any options that cost under $10 billion, the administration should abort the strategic study for the artificial island so as to ensure that the cost for the artificial island project is kept at a reasonable level. Time to vote. Members, please check your votes. Time's up. Let's see the results. 20 members present, 5 for, 14 against, abstention 0. Motion is rejected. Motion 170, moved by Albert Chan. Mr. Chan claims the division. Mr. Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I move that since in the funding proposal, the administration shows that public housing has particularly won a lot of support, as the facilities to be placed onto the artificial island. We urge that when carrying out the preliminary planning proposal, the government should ensure that public housing should make up not less than 90% of the total supply of housing on the future island, so as to ensure that the residential area on the island will be used to meet the housing needs of the grassroots. Time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes.
現在停止表決，顯示點票結果。
Let's display the results.
13位係
18 members present, for 13 against, abstention 0. Motion is rejected.
以下係陳偉業議員
171 motion moved by Albert Chan. Mr. Chan claims the division. Mr. Chan, please. Thank you, Chairman. I move that since the administration shows in its funding request paper that there will be a East Liantang metropolis to be built on the artificial island, a number of people worry that the idea would result in a hot island effect, raising the temperature there on the island and affecting the quality of life of people on the outlying islands. We urge that when carrying out the strategic environmental impact assessment, the administration should also assess the possibility of hot or heat island effect on residents in outlying islands, so as to ensure that the future strategic environmental impact assessment can truly reflect the potential impact on the environment of the outlying islands. Time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes.
現在停止。
Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 70 members present, for 12 against, abstention 0. Albert Chan, motion 172. Moved by Mr. Chan. Mr. Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I move that since many of the site investigation projects over the past few years cost actually double the original estimate, causing a lot of losses to the government, I urge that when approving the site investigation projects, the administration should state clearly that if the site investigation fees exceed the original estimate by at least 50%, then the contractors responsible must shoulder the additional costs, and they should not ask compensation or claim the government for extra money. This is to ensure that there would not be the issue of over-budgeting and losses to the government because of this site investigation work. Time to vote. Before I announce results, members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. 70 members present, for 12 against, abstention 0, so motion is rejected. Next one, motion 173, moved by Albert Chan. Those who agree to deal with it, Mr. Chan. Mr. Chan, please. Thank you, Chairman. I move that since the administration estimates that the professionals to working on the artificial island project will work for 170 months, I urge that when the government hires contractors to carry out the initial planning proposals, we need to state in this contract that the contractors ensure that local professionals must have the chance to work for not less than 19 man-months in the preliminary stage to ensure that local professionals are given job opportunities.
Okay.
Time to vote. Before I announce the results, members, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 17 members present, 5 for 11 against, abstention 0. The motion is rejected. Motion 174, moved by Albert Chan. Okay, Mr. Chan, claim to division. Mr. Chan, please. Thank you. I move that since for the various large-scale infrastructure projects, the consultants involved in carrying out feasibility study could not come to grips with all the information about site investigation, and they were not able to accurately assess the feasibility of projects. And since the artificial island project is so complicated, any major errors in the feasibility study could result in heavy losses. So we urge the administration, when inviting tenders for the consultancy contracts for the artificial island, it must ensure that the same company is responsible for the site investigation and feasibility infrastructure study, so that the company concerned will have an adequate understanding and grasp of the data of site investigation, so they can have an accurate assessment of the feasibility of the island project. Okay, now it's time to vote.
現在停止表決顯示點。
Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 18 members present, 5 for 12 against, abstention 0. Motion is rejected. Now is motion 175, moved by Albert Chan. Those who agree to deal with it. Okay, Mr. Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I move that since the government in its funding proposal, it wants to create an East Liantang metropolis on the artificial island, a number of people worried that building the metropolis would increase the transport burden in areas like North Lantau, South Lantau, Chuan Chao, Hong Kong Island West, and Qingyi. We urge that when coming up with preliminary planning proposal for the feasibility and infrastructure study, the administration must study the building of the metropolis on the transportation in nearby areas. Now it's time to vote. Before I announce the results, please check your votes. Voting is closed. Let's see the results. 18 members present, 5 for 12 against, abstention 0. Motion is rejected. Members, as I said in the beginning, let me repeat again. At our last meeting, I reminded members several times that if they were to have temporary motions or ad hoc motions, they must give them to me as soon as possible. And before the ending of the last meeting, I said that I would not accept any more new motions. But then, and after the meeting, and I did return some motions, mainly those submitted by Kevin Cheng and Fernando Zhang. And Gary Fang came up with 11 new motions, and there is also one more motion moved by them. So we do with 12, all the 12 new motions already. Together with the outstanding motions, we have got 270 motions altogether. Last meeting and today's meeting, we've dealt with so far. Okay, most of motions with only 60 outstanding. So I will accept consolidated motions, but we will not accept any more new motions.
This meeting is the last meeting in this session. For the outstanding items, we'll have to continue at the next meeting, and that will be in the next session. Meeting adjourned today. Thank you.